Shout out to our sponsor, Movement Watches. Yeah, it's superhero pose.
Get multiple watches in one with bands you can switch out for a whole new look, because who needs to buy a whole new watch for every occasion?
Nobody. Get 15% off your entire purchase at mvmtwatches.com/theknow. Welcome to The Know, I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Gus Sorola.
Ubisoft is in the middle of a huge corporate battle right now, one which may see them losing creative control of their company and video game properties.
You know, games like Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, The Division, just a few small video game franchises.
Probably never heard of them. And unfortunately for them, they may have just lost round one. News broke this week that media conglomerate Vivendi, who you may remember is previously owning Blizzard, Vivendi has received a majority shareholder backing in its hostile takeover attempt at Gameloft, Ubisoft's sister mobile gaming company.
Now that the pesky Gameloft is out of the way, Vivendi, who has had it sat on Ubisoft for a while now, can move on to the real prize.
Okay, but let's first take a step back from the Gameloft news. For those unaware, Gameloft is a mobile game company who created games like Order and Chaos and Dungeon Hunter. They're currently valued at around $780 million and reach an audience of about 19 million people per day.
More importantly, for someone like Vivendi, Gameloft is a fellow French company and gives them a foot in the door for adding video games to their portfolio.
It's all about the French politics. Together, Gameloft and Ubisoft, which are all run by the same family, the Guillemot brothers, represent a significant inroad to gaming. Taking both over locally owned businesses is probably the easiest way for Vivendi to achieve its goal.
So, as of this latest development, Vivendi won majority shareholder backing, which means the shareholders have approved of Vivendi's offer to buy a crapload of shares. That's a scientific number, crapload.
It's a metric crapload.
Yes, a metric, that's right. They basically told shareholders they'd give them a ton of money, and they were like, yeah, sure, we like money.
Yeah, so Vivendi now controls 62% of the company's shares and 56% of the votes. That's what we call a majority for those of you who are bad at math. It's more than 50.
Yeah, it checks out, yeah. So they run that shit now. They even sent a letter to Gameloft welcoming them to the hive mind, the company.
Yeah, same thing. In the kind of creepy letter, they wrote, "You will join shortly an international content and media group where creativity is the heart of its organization and its activities. We are very pleased to welcome you and to pool your talents with ours so that together we will be a stronger presence on the worldwide entertainment market."
Or to speak late 90s speak, all your game are belong to us.
I feel like, what's the company from Better Off Ted? Viridian Dynamics. It feels like a Viridian Dynamics, something they would say.
It's like the kind of thing you expect the cult leader to send out and be like, yeah, meet us at the spaceship at midnight. We're all gonna
go to space.
Yeah, we're gonna go somewhere.
What can the Guillemot brothers do to fight this? Well, not very much anymore. They lost.
To battle the takeover of Gameloft, they've been trying to find somebody else to come in and buy all the shares before Vivendi could, but got into a fight over the value of those shares.
Never goes too well when you say, hey, we want you to do us a solid and buy most of our company before this other guy does it. We also want you to pay more money than them.
Yeah, this is some next level Game of Thrones shit happening right now. Next up for Gameloft is now Ubisoft, which is part of a much harder fight. Part of that is because Ubisoft is valued somewhere at over 4 times the value of Gameloft at around $4 billion.
So it's going to cost them a lot more money to take over Ubisoft if that is indeed their ultimate goal. When we reported on the possibility of a hostile takeover for Ubisoft back in February, Vivendi had acquired a controlling stake in the company at around 15% of its total shares.
That number has since risen to around 18% in their intervening months. It basically puts Vivendi in a position to make board changes to Ubisoft, giving Vivendi CEO Vincent Bolloré a spot and perhaps doing away with some others.
And for his part, he says that's really all he wants. Trust him. The company declared in March they weren't going to make a bid for Ubisoft.
Sure, and the Templars just want to make video games.
It does seem a little bit odd for him to claim that when everything he's doing says, well, exactly the opposite. They just bought an additional 3% of the company. Yeah. Many feel that part of acquiring Gameloft, in addition to giving Vivendi a mobile gaming unit, is also a means to start negotiations over Ubisoft.
According to French law, which is apparently super polite, Vivendi's declaration of not intending to bid for Ubisoft means they now have to wait 6 months before they can actually attempt to do it.
Wow, that is really polite.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, I like it. Let's all go to France. They have a lot of vacation and short work weeks. That places the expiration date sometime around September, which is actually, one more about this whole matter, is going to be handled by the legal system. Ubisoft is trying to get French courts to invalidate the buyouts over compliance issues.
Conveniently, it's also going to be around the same time that Ubisoft's current board decides on whether or not to meet Vivendi's demands for board representation.
In all likelihood, the whole "we don't want to take you over" declaration was probably just a means to buy time until both of those matters are settled, so Ubisoft may be running out of time to figure out how to hold off on being taken over.
In addition to seeing if the courts will help, Ubisoft has also been courting Canadian investors. Since many of their studios operate in Canada, they've been making this case to investors that a Vivendi takeover could mean the closure of important Canadian tech employers.
Yeah, as for the other options, we broke those down in our last story about this. It was a few months ago. If they can't find someone else to buy shares at a higher price than Vivendi is willing to pay, there are a few more controversial tactics, including what's known as the Pac-Man defense. It's a good name, where you secretly...
It's Waka Waka.
Waka Waka. It's a Waka Waka, where you secretly buy up a controlling stake of the company that's trying to buy you.
The reason a hostile takeover is considered hostile is because it's done without the approval of the people that run the company. That sounds weird, but once a company is publicly traded, it's at the mercy of its shareholders, and whoever's got the most gets to call the shots.
So if you feel like being a total dick, you can start buying up shares without talking to the people who actually own the company. It's legal, but it doesn't really set a good tone for the future.
Case in point, Michael Guillemot, the CEO of Gameloft, has already said that he'll be resigning because of Vivendi's takeover.
And while some would be happy to see Ubisoft taken down a peg, I'm sure we're hearing a lot about that these days, it is a little bit concerning to see an old media company swinging its sword around and trying to forcefully imprint itself on one of the biggest publishers in gaming.
Whether you like Ubisoft games or not, it's hard to deny that the company has changed the gaming landscape in a big way. They constantly push new IPs to varying degrees of success, which is what gamers say that they really want. And old media may view that strategy a bit differently than Ubisoft's current management.
And considering they've got a history of wiping out the people at the top when they take over companies, well, it doesn't look too good for Ubisoft at the moment.
No one knows what Vivendi would do with the keys to Ubisoft's franchise in its hand. It's possible they'd let Ubisoft operate just the way they always have, but it's just as likely they'd try to change the way the company works, which is always a little dangerous when dealing with those in the creative industry.
Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the coming months and whether or not the rest of the Guillemots can combine like Voltron or something to stave off Vivendi's attempts to take over their company.
That'd be pretty cool.
Guillemot Voltron, Guillemotron.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's see it. I like the Guillemots. They're cute.
Okay. Ashley's opinions are her own. What do you guys think of the latest developments in the Ubisoft possibly losing control of its company? Let us know in the comments.
And for future business talk and the fate of Ubisoft and all that other serious business, like this video and subscribe to the know. Thanks to Movement Watches for sponsoring this update.
Movement watches are made with versatility in mind because you don't want to buy a new watch for every occasion.
Wearing brown shoes, switch out your metal band for a brown leather band. Bam, new watch. Everyone will be like, they got style.
I got one of these here. It's a black face with blue hands and a stylish brown band, just like we were talking about a little earlier.
Yeah, I got I went with the black with the rose gold face and I got a black leather band. I feel like I'm adulting pretty hard right now.
Let me tell you what time it is.
What time is it?
I don't want to say it because it's a different time for the people watching.
That's true.
So
okay.
Get your own watch and look at your own time.
And you can get 15% off your entire purchase when you go to mvmtwatches.com/theknow. You can be stylish like us.
Like Gus.
Like Gus.